Join us as we search Alaska and beyond for mysterious creatures, featuring Beans Baxter and Rob Roy Menzies. This is the Alaska Bigfoot Studies. Hey guys, it's Chuke here. Welcome to the Alaska Bigfoot Studies. We have an exciting season for you. We've already had one expedition and we are planning a multitude of other investigations and outings. Really excited about it, but going on a deep dive tonight because for the first time I wanted to talk about these feline creatures that are feline humanoids, very tall, more slender, similar to Bigfoot, as it's a hairy cryptid creature that has been spotted, and not as much as Bigfoot, but it has been spotted out in the wild, and people have had these encounters, and yet it has a cat-like feline face, kind of pointy ears, claws. Really interesting. The reason I bring it up is because I recently listened to a recent episode of the Sasquatch Chronicles, and they interviewed Corey from Central Oregon, and he talked about the Round Butte incident. Now, in this incident, it was really interesting because there is an alien connection to all this, I have to admit, but this guy initially saw these orbs with his friends that were like dancing around on the ground, and then they would float up into the sky and then just float out into what it looked like outer space. He saw a huge creature, he saw something big, and then he started seeing these humanoid creatures that had these yellow eyes and these cat-like features with kind of big pointy ears and a cat face, and they were slender and gray colored, and I was just fascinated. The whole story was really interesting. I definitely recommend you have a listen, but what struck me is I have only seen, I've had some UFO encounters and I've done shows on that and I've had footage actually, but the only cryptid I have seen in the wild, despite all my Bigfoot outings, was this, what I describe as like a cat-like creature. Now, I talked about this several times, but what struck me is the way Corey described his. It was a gray color with short fur, like, something like a pit bull, extremely short fur, gray colored. That's what I saw. Now, he also mentioned the big ears and the cat-like face. Now, a guy in Minnesota said that he saw exactly what I saw with these big kangaroo ears, and said it was more like a wolf dog man type thing. But the way I've always described it, I was hunting in the interior of Alaska in the mountains. It was a hike-in hunt, no four-wheelers. I was literally had everything on my pack, my tent, everything up in the mountains, and between 80 and 100 yards away, I saw animal. So, would have been better to get out my binos, but I had my rifle with me. So I immediately put it in my scope, from 80 to 100 yards with a 3x9 scope, 9 times magnification. I had it all the way up. I got a good look at it. And on this rock, kind of crawling over this rock, was what I thought initially was, a young fawn caribou, a baby immature caribou, because it had these big kangaroo ears that were kind of pointed and very large. But I was looking at it and it wasn't, once in a while a caribou will come down that far south. Typically it does not happen very often, so I was really surprised. But the more I looked at it, it could not have been a caribou because of it made these predator motions. It moved its shoulders in a way a caribou would not move, and it was crouching on this rock and going like this. Now, when you see a video of a panther or something like that, it goes like this and moves around and crouches its shoulders. That's exactly what it was doing. And sometimes I wish I would have just taken that shot because I could have hit it easily, but I couldn't identify it. It was so weird, and it looked like a panther with giant ears. And I know what people have told me in the past, Chuke, you saw lynx and you were just thrown off because it was blown up in the reticle of your scope, but I've seen lynx. I have shot arrows at lynx. A lynx is typically pretty furry. It's got these tufts right here, and it's got these ears that kind of go to a hair point, and then it's got like these black hairs that stick straight up. I know what a lynx looks like. I've seen them many times. This was much larger than a lynx. It wouldn't have been that big in the scope reticle. And like I said, it had these weird ears that were not like a lynx. So I guess it could have been maybe like the largest lynx in the world that had mange on most of its body. I really don't think so. It was something strange. I could not identify it. And, you know, I've been hunting for years up here in Alaska. This was the only time I had difficulty looking at something that close up under magnification and not able to identify it. So when this guy talked about these humanoid creatures that he saw with the big ears and the cat faces, you know, I couldn't make out any yellow eyes. It was, you know, during the morning hours and there was a lot of light out. I didn't see any yellow in the eyes, but I definitely saw, I mean, immediately thought it was some kind of mountain lion with giant ears. It was so weird. But doing some investigation into this, there is a small percentage of cryptids that do have these cat-like features. It's not common at all, but it has happened, and that example in Oregon was one of the more recent ones that I've heard about. Now, I know the Ancient Aliens TV show, you know, gets a lot of crap because they kind of went too far with the cheesiness, but the ancient astronaut theory makes a lot of sense to me. The core concepts of it, when you look at the archaeology and the history and the ideas behind it, I really like it. And one of their big things was the feline humanoids that they attribute to the system of Sirius. And they really talked about ancient Egypt. You've got these representations of, you know, the god Basket and Sektet, and they've made these connections to these cat people that they believe were actually a race of cat humanoids that came from the Sirius system because, you know, Basket and some of those gods were related to giving technology to the humans. So, and it goes beyond, way farther back than Egypt. Of course, we get into the realm of Atlantis and the Lemurian age and all that. It's really fascinating. And I do think that a lot of that information was lost, and that's a part of that. But what's interesting about this example that happened in Oregon is they did see what they really thought were spacecraft coming down and depositing these entities, and then they saw these cat people. So I think it's all connected. Anyways, I'm going to do some more investigation into it. Let me know what you guys think. I know a viewer in Minnesota, also saw almost this exact creature that I saw, and to him it was more like a dogman with the snout, but he saw it cross the road in front of his vehicle. So these things are out there. People are having these encounters, and it just makes you wonder. I know this is really getting out there, but, you know, scientists and biologists have talked about, you know, creatures naturally developing eyes and limbs and being humanoid in nature. I've talked about, you know, the reptilian races in Dulce Base and the caves there. All of that is really interesting. So anytime we have these animal-like beings, I find it fascinating, and I think there is something to it. So let me know what you guys think. I'm going to have more videos up. I will see you next Sunday, but it's food for thought. The cat people, I know it sounds crazy. I'll play the, you know, video game of the Elder Scrolls and Skyrim, and that you can create the cat creature. But I do think humans have that ancient memory that there were some kind of cat beings, and we see it in architecture, especially in Mesopotamian Egypt. You know, that people have said that the Sphinx originally had a lion head, and it does have that lion body. So that architecture is everywhere. I think there's something to it. I think it's all connected. So I know it's a reach, but I'm having fun with this investigation. Let me know what you guys think. It's Chuke, your friend the field.